Bring in BlueStack Strategies founder and principal Maura Gillespie, a former advisor to House Speaker John Boehner. Maura, what do you think about the idea of inviting Benjamin Netanyahu to a joint meeting of Congress?
I think it's an important opportunity for Congress, but also for the United States to show the world and those who have questioned that we do support Israel and we do support their right to exist. You can have disagreements with President, of Israel, Netanyahu, of course. But I think what this signals is that we stand behind Israel and they're simply the right to defend themselves. We do not support Hamas, a terrorist organization. And I don't think that, those who are criticizing it, we saw that back in 2015. People were not necessarily thrilled that Netanyahu spoke before Congress because it was a few weeks before his election. And they saw that as unfavorable. But again, it signaled a strong, olive branch to our allies in that region. And as Congressman Schneider said, they are our most important ally in the region. It's important that we, especially at this time, reaffirm that commitment to them.
Hamas set this war in motion. It still holds maybe 150 hostages that it took on the day that it came across the border and murdered civilians and raped women. So why is Hamas and the Palestinians, why are they enjoying so much worldwide support right now?
It's interesting to me because if the protesters, one, we cannot leave them behind, but we also can't have a president who allows college protesters to dictate our foreign policy. It's really, if it's about humanitarian aid, I'd love to know where those college protesters were and have been for the last, over a decade, where Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has been murdering his own citizens on the daily. So I'd love to know where they were if this is about humanitarian aid. But unfortunately, you're seeing this worldwide, this motivation to somehow back, a terrorist organization that has been, in charge of Palestine for a long time here. And yet this is how they treat their people because they put Palestinians in harm's way by using them as human shields.
The International Criminal Court is talking about bringing charges against Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense minister, Yoav Gallant, over war crimes. But nobody seems to be talking about the same thing for Hamas. And we saw the atrocities that were committed against the Israelis on October 7th. It just seems like the scales have tilted in a very strange way here.
I would agree with you. And I also think that there hasn't been enough focus on the fact that, as you just mentioned, there are still hostages that we could be pushing to release. We still have American citizens in there. And I worry about what this says to the rest of the world. So are we susceptible to letting, social media and TikTok and different platforms influence our young people so that they can basically then hold hostage their college campuses and dictate our foreign policy? We need to show a backbone. And unfortunately, we have not seen that from the White House thus far. It does hearken me to think back to Afghanistan and the disastrous withdrawal that has cost American lives. And we can't afford to let this happen again. And with a role that's so important that America plays on the world stage, right now we need to reaffirm our support to our allies, not just by words, but by action. And so I have been very frustrated, but to see, a lack of responsibility and a lack of standing up, and standing with our allies by the president. And I don't know that that's going to help him come November.
On a per capita basis, October 7th was far worse for the Israelis than 9/11 was for this country. 8 months after 9/11, we had a war going in Afghanistan. We had invaded that country, and we didn't have the world telling us to back down.
Right. And President Bush stood there and, the world hears you. We are going to get these people who did this to us. And I think that the Israelis have every right to do the same thing. They should be wanting to get, rid of Hamas and hold them accountable for the horrific things that were done, not only just on October 7th, but in the proceedings, days and months and weeks since then. We have continued to see and hear more and more of what happened that day and what has continued to happen to those who have been taken by Hamas. And it's sickening that anyone would say that they don't have a right to defend themselves and retaliate.
Maura Gillespie, we'll see what happens with this Netanyahu invitation to Congress. Thank you.
Thank you.